Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I finally watched 3 O'Clock High.
And I'm Gary. And today we're going to review and discuss 3 O'Clock High, which released in 1987 from writers Richard Christian Matheson and Tom Scalozzi, and directed by Phil Joanou. Ian, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows Jerry Mitchell. He's a high school student who just has happened to wake up on possibly the worst day of his life. He's had a run-in with Buddy Revell, played by Richard Tyson, and Buddy wants to fight Jerry at 3 o'clock on this very day. Jerry is going to do his best to try to get out of the fight, even if it kills him.
So I'd not really known much about this director other than the short 10-minute video that he made, Punisher: The Dirty Laundry.
Oh, yeah.
Which was pretty successful. It was pretty good.
More violent than the fucking movie.
But he'd also been fairly well known for doing lots of music videos for U2 and Bon Jovi and several others. But I didn't realize that he was originally the protege of Steven Spielberg.
Oh, okay.
Going all the way back before this movie, Phil Joanou was working with Steven Spielberg on The Amazing Stories in 1985.
Yeah, wow.
Spielberg directed the pilot episode.
Yeah.
I think one of those also starred or featured Casey Siemaszko. He was also in one of those episodes.
Yeah.
And so they kind of had a bit of a working relationship there, and Spielberg handed Phil the script to a film at the time called After School.
Oh, okay.
And Phil turned it down. He turned Spielberg down and went, "No, I'm not doing that." It's like, well, I'll take the script home and read it. But he was just like, I don't think I want to be pigeonholed in, like, why bother? John Hughes has got this genre marked down right now, so...
Yeah.
But then he was just like, wait a minute. I've just turned down Steven Spielberg. This is my first opportunity to make a feature-length movie.
Yes.
I should probably take this.
Should probably take it, yeah.
And he did, and Spielberg gave him his blessings. He had a $5 million budget, and he did the scouting location, found the school, got the company out there, made the film, and this film bombed on release.
Yeah.
It was one of those failures. So much so that Steven Spielberg had his name removed from the film when the test screenings for the film were coming back. Not negative, but not really high either.
Yeah.
Now, I've heard some kind of conflicting stories about why Spielberg took his name off it. Usually, when you hear a director or, a name like that having their name removed, it's usually because they don't want to be associated with it at all.
Yeah.
But according to Phil in interviews, he was like, Spielberg was very protective of me. He showed me the ropes, even though he broke his heart by, at one point, telling him, like, this film's going straight to video, which is a death sentence, if you basically fail to make a movie, then...
Yeah.
And so he was a bit heartbroken, but it still screened in limited theaters to empty seats.
Yeah.
Which, again, is, kind of soul-destroying, which... it's unfortunate, but considering this guy was meant to be, the next big director.
Yeah.
So it's a shame that this film kind of got buried and forgotten during, the John Hughes teen drama season, really.
Well, yeah, but we've been hearing about this film for the last 3 years.
We've definitely had a resurgence, especially now with a new re-release as well, in high definition.
Well, yeah, but we also had one person who was a fan of the show going, "You need to do 3 O'Clock High. You need to do 3 O'Clock High." And like you said, I'd never heard of it, so I'd never watched it. I watched a lot of films in the 80s, and 3 O'Clock High must have, is a film that must have bombed in the cinema. They weren't willing on sticking it on TV. They weren't willing on sticking it on a DVD matinee kind of. There was a lot of 80s high school movies I can think of, like Breakfast Club and Pretty in Pink and 16 Candles and other fucking movies like that. But 3 O'Clock I never came into the circles of conversation.
No.
And so whenever it came up, whenever we saw it on the channel, it was just like, all right, we've got to do it. And Richard Tyson, the actor as well, he's popped up a number of times for us. I remember him mainly as the bad guy from Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah.
And he was one of the snipers as well in Black Hawk Down as well. So this guy can act. And then finally sitting down and watching this movie, I'm like, oh my God. I partly wished that I could have watched it in the 80s and really, really, really fucking experienced it. Or even in the mid-90s when I was watching all those movies.
Yeah.
Really properly experienced.
I don't think it was in any of the video rental stores over here, because I would have recognized an awesome front cover.
Yeah,
because the poster for the film is really eye-catching. I've never seen this poster either, and it was designed by the same legendary film poster creator of a lot of Spielberg movies. So Raiders of the Lost Ark, for instance, Back to the Future. This guy does great posters.
Well, that's it. The guy playing Jerry as well, Casey Siemaszko. Like I read that, like he'd been in Stand by Me.
Yeah.
He was
the
3D
in
3D
Back to the Future
1 and Back to the Future 2. So I was just like, all right, so this guy can properly act. And I like the way that the intro just came in. Like, he narrates gently about how he knew it was going to be the worst day of his life.
Somehow.
He wakes up, he sees his alarm is running late. His sister thought he was dead. And then typical teen, typical 80s teen, I suppose, jumping out of bed and realizing he's got no clean clothes and so smelling them.
Yeah. Yeah, he goes into the laundry room, doesn't he? And he's just like, he opens the dryer. And his sister steps in. I don't even know why Mum even bothered buying a dryer. And he pulls out his clothes. He's like, they're all tangled up in the washer. Yeah. He's like, he looks at the microwave. He's like, in it goes. He grabs the Pop-Tart and he's like, oh, it's cold. Oh, I'll just put it in the microwave as well. Why the hell not?
Yeah, why not?
He's in the car. He's brushing his teeth. His sister hands him some Diet Coke and just massive on the screen there. Just like, oh, must be some paid product placement right there. He wishes his mouth out and spits it out. Wow, this is great. Like, the opening song apparently was a nightmare for the studio as well. Because, this entire opening wasn't originally there. I think for the original test audiences.
Yeah.
And so the director took some creative license with the script. He was allowed carte blanche to change anything that he wanted to. So he made alterations and additions, and he wrote this entire opening sequence to help establish Jerry early on, because people would often think that he wasn't the main character of the movie. So it really introduces you to him. You get to understand his home life. He's got a good relationship with his sister.
Yeah.
He's got an interesting girlfriend. Like, we don't quite know it's his girlfriend. But
Franny, she has like feelings towards him, but he doesn't reciprocate it really well.
Jerry,
like,
I really think we need to bond. It's like, what does she mean?
Well, that's it. Like, we follow their relationship through the movie, and she's constantly trying to have sex with him. And then one moment where she actually does make out with him, she kind of just leaves him and walks off. And I thought that was it.
Right.
And then she'll come back later on and kind of,
after talking to Ethan,
her undying love at him and stuff. So I'm like, Jerry, you've just got women all over the place for you, because he's got that Karen girl as well that kind of starts flirting with him.
Yeah, the pretty girl that's giving him the eye, the blinking eyes in the car. Yeah. She comes into the store to buy paper. Yeah. And it just sets up Jerry for these awkward scenarios where he's kind of meek, He's not a nerdy, geeky guy, but he's pretty much like your everyday student.
Yeah.
And I think the casting is really good here, even though he'd had some prior work. I think he really comes into his own here, and you really believe that, and you can kind of put yourself in this position.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, the whole school is ablaze with rumors and talks of this character called Buddy Revell that's going to be turning up into the school today, a transfer student, and everyone just starts rumor controlling all of these stories about how he punched somebody out, doesn't like to be touched, broke some guy's neck.
You heard about his brass knuckles? The dude has brass knuckles? Yeah, always carries them with him. He uses them on special occasions. He hit that continuation
so hard his nose flew off his face.
Serious?
Totally serious. He's also got this thing about being touched.
I thought that fucking rumor section was absolutely brilliant, because it starts with Lisa Simpson, Yeardley Smith, kind of just talking to her friends, and she starts this rumor, but then you kind of just follow the camera as it's following the students going into the school, and then they're hearing, and they're just adding little bits and hearing little bits here and there.
Great one shot as well. Very few edits.
Absolutely brilliant to watch. And then as it flows through, it will end up at Jerry, and Jerry's sister Bree will give him bits of information that you've already heard, but it's not the whole truth. And so I was sat there like, wait, hold on, like, because some of them are saying like Buddy protected himself or that he was protecting somebody else, and then he ended up just fighting this guy, and then he ended up breaking this guy's this teacher's neck, and he doesn't like being touched. So all of a sudden the whispers turn Buddy into this scary
monster
figure.
Yeah. And that's when we get the fantastic introduction of him, where you see the car
Oh,
pull
yeah.
up, and the boot stepping down on the pavement.
Yeah.
The director talked at length, actually, because he was like, his greatest inspirations for this film were Martin Scorsese, particularly After Hours.
Yeah, yeah.
And, of course, Road Warrior, the first Mad Max film, especially for some of the fight scenes as well. But he wanted that introduction that's in Road Warrior with a foot stepping down onto the tarmac. And he was just like... But his director of photography was like, the camera can't get any lower to the ground. So he was like, look, this is the shot that I want. We're going to do it. And so they solved it by having a pavement there for him to step onto instead of the road.
Nice.
So I was like,
nice.
he got the elevation and he got the shot that he wanted.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it dollies all the way up to him as he leans back on the car, takes in the whole school like... Right. And then in he goes. And you got this giant Gothic school. I was like, wow, they don't build them like that over here.
No, not anymore.
Like, this
yeah.
is really quite an impressive looking building. And in he goes.
See, I also read in some notes as well that some of the writers took some of their own personal experiences.
Well, just the director did.
Oh, right,
'Cause,
yeah.
Once the script was done, those writers didn't have anything to do with it after
Yeah,
that.
but it was just some of the personal experiences that came into the movie that actually made the movie feel...
More genuine.
relatable. Yeah, more genuine. Like, I'm sure so many of us have been in school and you've either been bullied or you were the bully. And so that's it. You could watch this movie and be like, oh, that was me.
Yeah.
That was totally me. Like, the director does not even mess around. It's like some high school movies seem so farcical, like Ferris Bueller, and this movie really just took it to the point where, like I said, that one camera shot, listening to all the rumors, seeing Jerry, then meeting up with Buddy, that you're just like, oh, right, we're going to clash these two.
Well, because his friend, doesn't it? His friend talks to him and he's like, look, Buddy's in the school, we write the paper, so we need to go and interview him and get his full story.
But that's it. Jerry's just like, well, I don't want to get involved with this guy. If this guy's as scary as you're making him out to be, I don't want to. And then the teacher turns around and goes, oh, Jerry, you're the best kid of the class. You're the friendliest. You've got all the marks. We want you to do it. And he's like, fuck. Can I go toilet?
Right. Small bit of continuity here in the movie.
Yeah.
I was on a second watch. I noticed it. But you see the teacher, she's got the board in her hand. She's got really long painted nails.
Right.
And then when you follow the finger up the board, I was like, that's a completely different person's hand. Like, they're not even painted at all. It's probably a man's hand.
I didn't even notice that.
But yeah, so Jerry kind of panics and he rushes off to the bathroom. And while he's at the urinal, he looks over and there's Buddy. Now, this is an 80s movie and the director has apologized for the use of the F word. Not the other F word, the other F word.
The fag.
Yeah. And he was like, it was a product of the 80s. That was
Product
the
of the
time, and that
80s,
was
yeah.
that word was commonly used then.
Yeah.
But Jerry ends up talking to Buddy and it's like, look, we want to do this interview, but Buddy's like, look, I don't want anybody to know who I am.
Yeah.
I don't want any involvement in this. And Jerry's like, you know what? Forget it then. It's all fine. And he puts his arm on his shoulder as if to say, we're all good. And that stare, that camera angle, the intensity in those eyes, like, this guy is like a bomb about to go off.
You've been told numerous times that he doesn't like to be touched, so the one thing you do is fucking touch him.
I love that the camera stays there just long enough that you see the penny drop in Jerry's eyes, you're just like, oh crap.
Yeah.
And then he's head thrust into the wall. He's been flushed by the urinal in front.
Up, yeah.
He's smashed up against the mirror and he's told, like, you leave the school, I will be under your bed.
Yeah.
You will see me at 3:00 in the parking lot and we will fight.
Yeah.
So, oh god. And this is all like the first 10 minutes of the film.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is great. The pacing's great. The character setups are great. And the performances here are really good. So you really believe it. And even though the film is a comedy, it's definitely got that dark edge to it, which has definitely come from that Scorsese influence and the way. You'll notice the camera kind of is always dollying in, getting closer and closer. So it starts to feel more claustrophobic. We start to see lots of shots of the clocks. Even if we don't see the clocks, we'll occasionally hear the ticking as it starts to count now till 3:00.
That moment that he comes out of the toilet and he goes back into his tutor room, study room, whatever, and then the clock goes 9 a.m. and you're like, oh shit, I was sat there like, oh fuck, we still got hours to go.
School
Like,
day just started.
It's just started. So then we're just following Jerry.
I also have to say as well, in that science room, like even the insect video that they're showing is just mirroring him. Jerry is the cricket, Buddy is the crab scorpion about to catch his prey, and obviously you can probably feel the Spielbergian touch over the scene because the music playing over that video is the Going Out to Sea theme tune from Jaws.
And I also kind of also felt like they were watching that video. It's just like Gremlins. With the way that camera room, science room is lit as well.
But we've also got it's great at establishing all of these other side characters as well. We've still got the pretty blonde girl sat beside him, and we've got these two other guys that want to tell the story. They're constantly there with their video cameras like, well, this is going to be on cable, we're going to get a lot of this, we want to tell the whole story, Jerry.
It's just so brilliant because the way that Casey Siemaszko plays the Jerry character, he is doing his best to avoid all of these situations, and in fairness, in his own little way, he also keeps making them worse and worse. So as the movie was going on, I was sat there like, I don't actually generally think he's the hero. I generally think maybe not the hero, maybe he's just like the rest of us, normal guys, where we make stupid decisions and then we just keep making more and more stupid decisions,
just making it worse
on
and
top
worse.
of that, making it worse. Because we saw that Jerry works in the student shop, and there was this whole thing where they've made $450. It's the most they've ever made. The teacher doesn't want them to obviously move it from the till because obviously the money might go missing, and so Jerry's been trying to avoid the fight. He even ends up walking up to Buddy in the corridor to say to him, look, I don't want to fight, I'm really sorry, I'm apologetic and stuff. And he's got his friend Franny and Vincent there. And the way the camera looks at Buddy as he's at the locker, Buddy's just like, I don't want anybody to know I'm here. I don't want to involve anybody. And then it does that big, massive shot of the whole fucking school just watching Jerry and Buddy in the corridor. And I'm like, oh, Jerry, you just made this fucking worse.
Right?
I don't like people knowing about me.
And so it's all the crazy situations as well that everybody else tries to think up to help Jerry out. So like his buddy Vincent, who's really kind of a generally nice guy and is actually looking out for his buddy, comes up with the idea that after spotting Buddy's combination lock, he memorized it. And so now he's come up with the idea to break into Buddy's locker, put a knife in there, lock it back up and put a note on the teacher's table. And Jerry's just like, don't do that because if Buddy gets expelled, he'll know it was me. And so then they're frantically trying to get the locker back open. And so so the whole time I'm like, so Buddy's not actually doing anything wrong.
Not right now.
He's basically told you he wants to fight you at 3 o'clock because you put your hand on him.
And he really doesn't like that.
And he really doesn't like that. And so now you're trying to get him expelled by putting a knife in his foot. Where the fuck did fucking Vincent find a switchblade? I fucking don't know.
Yeah, that's the film's biggest plot mystery.
And then you get that whole situation as well where the fucking they manage to, well, they don't manage to get into the locker, but Vincent doesn't put the note on the teacher's desk. So then when Jerry goes out to his car to escape or get off of campus, the knife is stabbed into his fucking steering wheel with a note from Buddy saying, I'll see you at 3 p.m.
Now, this is the one thing that I will say is, very, villainous of Buddy.
Oh, yeah.
When he opens the car and realizes that because it's his mum's car, it's been absolutely shredded. All the electronic cables have been cut. And I'm like, now that's going too far now.
Yeah. But at the same time, in Buddy's defense, this is after he's found the knife
in his locker.
Yeah. So who really is the villain?
Well, I mean, but then again, Jerry didn't put that there either.
No, but he could have stopped his friend Vincent from putting it in there.
Yeah.
But this is where we also get introduced to the Duke of the school security, Mitch Pileggi, fucking Skinner from X-Files,
Right.
who I was sat there looking at him like, is this before or after he fought all those zombies in Return of the Living Dead Part 2?
It's probably after.
And is he
And probably before he goes and joins the FBI.
Well, yeah. Well, I assume this is also before he gets put into the electric chair for the Shocker movie as well, where he was the killer in that.
That might have been his twin, though.
I imagine they were all one big family, all four of them. But Duke decides after finding the knife, because Jerry tries to make a whole run and the Duke manages to chase him down. The Duke finds the knife and takes him to the truant officer.
Well, the disciplinarian.
Yeah, who's like he must be the most evil person in the fucking school.
With the most evil assistant in the school as well. The way that she walks in and gives Jerry the stink eye. I was like, the camera angle's perfect. The actress is perfect at delivering that. Even the way she carries herself with such power.
Yeah.
As she goes out the door.
The way her and that Zelensky, whatever guy, kind of shoots with this look like, thank you for bringing me the fire. But it's the way Jerry's just like, look, and he explains the entire situation. He tells the teacher the truth. And the teacher's like, that's the most silliest excuse I've ever heard. I'm going to call the teacher and find out. And so he rings up the teacher, and the teacher's like, no, we've not found any note. So Jerry's like, oh, for fuck's sake. And then 2 seconds later, he meets up with Vincent, and Vincent's like, look, I got the note back.
Right, so you won't get into trouble now.
Yeah, and Jerry's just like,
oh, God, you've made it worse. Now... I want to talk about the music in the film.
Oh, it's great.
It's Tangerine Dream. We talked about them in From Near Dark, To the Keep, and many, many other films that they've done. I believe this was like the 30-plus album that they've done. I think like their 6th or 7th film collaboration at this time.
Nice.
And their music is always fantastic. But the director had a bit of a problem with them. So much so that I think he had to fly over there during post-production to explain to them that the music that they were providing for the film was not quite appropriate. Because they scored the movie like it was a horror movie, like it was a thriller, and
they were still just coming off the back of the Keep.
Right, they were explaining to the director, like, look, the boy's being beaten by this bully. It's horror, and the director's like, no, it's comedy. And so they were like, so the music initially didn't match right.
Right.
So that's why you'll notice in the opening credits, there's an additional music provided by. And of course, the opening song at the beginning of the film was also provided by somebody else as well. I think a college friend of the director. But otherwise, the music by Tangerine Dream is always excellent, and it does also bring that darker edge to this film.
It does.
One of those sequences as well that's almost like a living nightmare is when he's in the school gymnasium. And all of the cheerleaders burst through, all of the shutters come screaming down as everyone's screaming their heads off as they're starting to whack this piñata. But all the while, Buddy's just stood there staring at Jerry like, 3 o'clock.
But I was trying to work that out because I'm like, so Jerry's looking and he can see Buddy, and Buddy's looking at him, but then at the same time Jerry's looking forward and can see the cheerleaders, and obviously there's nothing behind them. So where is Buddy in circumference?
Editing movie magic.
But Jerry comes up with the great idea that he could pay off another kind of school jock, not a bully kind of character, to beat up Buddy. And so Jerry, in his great grand scheming of things, decides that he'll pay this guy to beat up Buddy.
With funds from the school store, cash.
So he goes into the school store and he tries to break into the till. Now, there was kind of a joke because we'd already been set up that the till doesn't open up properly. So Jerry's having real trouble trying to open up this till to get the money out before the end of the fire drill that they've been called it out for. And he finally gets into it by using the fire extinguisher, but inadvertently ends up destroying the entire room, making it look like a trashed robbery. And so, like I said, these things are mounting up. I'm like, you put your hand on Buddy, you set him up with a knife, you're now stealing from the school to pay a bully to beat him up. Jerry, you're the fucking bad guy in all this!
Right. Well, Spielberg often thought when this film was going into production that they were making another kind of Karate Kid movie. About a kid who's being bullied at school and will have a fight at the end and overcome.
Yeah, but we know about the Karate Kid that actually Danny was the bad guy in that too.
Well, I mean, they're both equally to blame, right?
No, he cheated in the last fight, Gary. Kicked him in the face.
He still won the fight. Still one fight. Yeah. No, now we have 6, 7, 8, 10 seasons of Karate Kid to follow.
Yeah.
We do now. But you can see that that's kind of similarity is
Yeah,
here,
yeah,
where you're
yeah.
just like, they're both kind of at odds. Like, I mean, granted, the intensity coming off of Buddy Revell, even though he only really has a couple of
Oh,
scenes,
yeah.
his presence is felt over the rest of the film with that ticking clock, with that, getting closer and closer, the zoom-ins on Jerry as he's panicking, as he's getting desperate, because
Yeah.
everything he's trying to do is failing. And he's literally only got 2 classes left until the fight. He's got English class.
Yeah.
And so he's like, you know what? The plan is now to get detention. This is this great sister's idea.
Well, I mean, the bully goes up to Buddy in the library.
Oh, yeah,
before
sorry, yeah,
this.
yeah.
And he confronts Buddy, and Buddy's just like, "How do I know you?" And he's like, "We played football." And so Jerry's paid the bully to beat up Buddy, and he puts his finger on him, doesn't he? Buddy still doesn't want to fight him. Like, Buddy could have easily just got up and knocked him out, but he's just like, "I don't want it." And the guy puts his finger on Buddy. And we get this shot again of him looking at the finger, and he breaks the finger and he punches the other guy in the face. And it's such brilliant because he knocks into one of the shelving stacks, which just does this whole massive domino effect of shelving stacks.
Yeah.
And as the last one collapses, there is Jerry and his friend Vincent right behind.
Yeah.
And I just love the way that Buddy just kind of goes, shh.
Perfect end to the scene.
You know what's awesome as well? I've seen that fucking GIF a load of times, right?
Yeah.
Not once have I ever seen it with the blood on his finger as I did in this film.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, because they've always seemed to cut it out. So I finally saw the blood on his finger and I was like,
Oh.
man, that's a lot more horrific.
Yeah. But again, it's a sequence that seemed very familiar when I watched it. I was like, oh my God. It was The Mummy in 1999 that did the exact same gag.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know if there's been any other movies that have done that. But I like the way that it kind of hits the knight, and the knight does a pirouette and spins, then hits next, and then cowering behind the bookshelf, just stood there like
so good.
Deer in the headlights, Oh my God. But yeah, really, really great sequence. Also, interestingly, it shows a new angle on Buddy Revell, as he's actually in a library.
Yeah.
Sat reading a book.
Reading a book.
I'm like, that's not usually where you'd find the school bully, like anywhere near that.
That's it.
But interestingly, he's reading Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men.
Ah.
Interestingly, Casey Siemaszko would play Curly in Mice and Men 5 years after this. So I was like, oh, there's a little link there.
That's brilliant. That is.
But yeah, that library scene was a really good sequence.
It's really good. But yeah, like Gary said, after that, Jerry's just like, I'm fucked, and the movie has broken it up really well with him taking these moments to go to the bathroom and hide and do all
constant
these
bathroom retreats.
Bathroom retreats constantly. People
and
are
it's
coming
another
there.
horror moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where we see where he's looking underneath the store and the boots come in.
Yeah.
Like, here comes Buddy. You're gonna get it now.
You're gonna get it now.
Boom! First store door opens. Boom! Second store door opens, and he gets to the locked door. And he's like, Jerry, come out, or I'm coming in. Oh God! Undoes the lock, and it's the two film people there with the cameras. They're there with their contract, like, Jerry, sign this. You got other kids coming up to him and going, Jerry, I've got a bet on you. You need to last longer than 3 minutes. How many stitches? I don't know.
And Jerry's even being pulled in by his teacher, who's called the police because they found the room trashed and the money missing. And Jerry knows about this. Vincent managed to get $350 of it back off of the bully who got beaten up, and decided to give him $100 because, he's got a broken nose and a broken finger, so he had to get something. Jerry ends up giving Vincent crap, and that's kind of a bit of an emotional sequence, because even though we don't see Vincent a lot, the actor playing Vincent turns around and it's just like, I'm just trying to help. And I'm like, yeah, Jerry, you fucking caused most of this situation anyway. But it's Bree who basically says to Jerry, right, your next class is English. I want you to be the worst person you can ever be and get detention. If you're in detention, you can't be in the parking lot at 3 o'clock. And so Jerry goes into his English class and his teacher asks him to stand up and talk about his book report. And so we see this complete switch in Jerry's personality now. He's just rude, he's obnoxious, he's smoking cigarettes.
He's trying to be.
Yeah, he's trying to be, but he kind of is as well. I mean, the teacher, Miss Farmer, played by Caitlin O'Hearney, I think it was. I mean, she's playing the typical kind of graduate, Mrs. Robinson, MILF kind of teacher who people probably got the feelings for. And Jerry is aiming for this. You know, he's aiming to, you know, do something with her, to kiss her, to get himself thrown into detention. And instead, he ends up making out with her and passing out.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, they're getting quite intimate. She's getting quite aroused with his performance.
Yeah,
even though she's trying to remain professional.
Yeah.
But she seemed to quite like the cigarette going out in her coffee mug for some reason. And then when he does ask her, what's your favourite novel? And she's like, Turn of the Screw.
Yeah.
Oh. And then he kisses her. And that's because, well, in the Turn of the Screw, there's a tutor that kisses the student. So that's why he's like, how, you know, what a coincidence. And yeah, and then he does pass out. He wakes up in the nurse's ward.
Yeah.
And he's just like, oh, damn, it's still not 3 o'clock yet.
Yeah.
I can go back to class. Oh, no.
Did I get detention? She's like, no, but here's Miss Farmer's
Right, she
home
left her
phone number. I'm sat there like, motherfucking shit, this is a teacher's fucking safeguarding PTA meeting nightmare shit. This could shut the whole fucking school down. But, alright, it's an 80s movie. They were kind of allowed to do it back then?
No.
They've never been allowed to do it.
Well, when the genders are this way around, I think it's... But when it's reversed, it's no. I don't know. It's a very taboo subject.
Yeah, very
Let's
taboo.
not get into it.
Yeah. So Jerry obviously realizes, oh, I'm screwed. So he takes the money, the $350, and he confronts Buddy again. I mean, they'd had this little thing in their algebra class where Buddy kind of made out like he didn't know the answers, and so Jerry was kind of showing him the answers, and they got caught. So the two of them get sent to the headmaster's office, and the headmaster doesn't believe that Jerry had problems and that Jerry was cheating off of Buddy. So he writes up a maths equation, and he basically goes, right, Buddy, solve this. And Buddy does get up and solve it, which makes you go, holy shit, he's really smart. You know, he's reading a book. He's not... You know, he could have been tormenting Jerry all day, as we understand that a lot of bullies do. He hasn't been. In fact, all the situations that we've seen him in, it's Jerry trying to instigate or get himself out of another situation.
By making things worse,
inadvertently.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a great reveal, isn't it? It's like, drop the mic, like, wow, he's smart. You know, school bully. So, well, maybe he's not really a bully, but you know, he's being presented as one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's quite a shock. I mean, even Jerry sat there like, well, why did you cheat then? Like, what was the point in that? Why have you made this happen?
Yeah.
Is this just to ruin me even more?
Well, it's kind of the way it's like, Buddy even says it to him when Jerry confronts him, like, look, I will pay you not to fight me.
Great sequence.
And it's, I love that shot of the wide shot with them in the hall and Buddy walking off, leaving Jerry on his own. And Buddy basically just... It's not like he belittles him or really even negatively talks down to him. He basically just says to him, like, you didn't even try. You didn't even try to fight me.
And how does that make you feel?
Yeah.
You didn't even try. How does that feel?
And that's what, and he's gone. He just walks away. And Jerry's just sat there like, I feeling the lowest of the low that he's ever felt in his life.
Because in a way, the movie's trying to tell us as well, like, he's destroyed all of his friendships. He's destroyed his job at his school. He's destroyed it all for this situation. And so he should have just fought Buddy. But like I said, I'm like, hang on a minute. He constructed most of this scenario himself anyway. So how can I really feel bad for him when he's the one who stole the money? He's the one lying to the police officer.
Because he's a really likable guy at heart.
I get that. But,
otherwise the movie would just fail. It wouldn't work.
But at the same time, in a way, there's no real payoff that way either. The police have actually told Jerry, we're watching you. We kind of know it's an inside job. So all the fingers are pointing to Jerry. And so, in a way, the movie's trying to say, oh, you want Jerry to put it on Buddy so that Buddy gets in trouble. And I'm like, no, because Buddy didn't do anything. Like we said, we don't know anything about Buddy's past history. So he could have been treated like shit his entire life. And all he wants to do is finish his education. And these are the scenarios he finds himself in because other people put themselves in his path.
Yeah.
Jerry didn't have to lay his hand on Buddy's arm. He could have just said, okay, you don't want to do anything, and walked off. He didn't. He put his fucking arm on his shoulder.
Yeah, it was purely accident. He didn't do it to invoke a fight, did he? He absolutely would
It
not want
wasn't
to.
an accident. It wasn't an accident to go and steal the $450 to pay somebody
Well,
else.
no, that
to
was
beat
pure
up
desperation.
Buddy. It wasn't desperation.
Yes,
he
it is.
purposely paid another guy
Yes.
to beat up Buddy, and he only turned around, looked bad when Buddy defended himself again. Because Buddy didn't want to fight another person. Like
Yeah,
I said,
know.
a lot of these
I know.
situations. But then Jerry at the end, he turns around to Buddy and goes, I'm going to fight you now. You've made this. I'm coming for you. And I'm like, all right, okay, I can see where you're going with this movie. You want me to get behind Jerry. You want me to obviously feel like he's standing up for himself. And so, yeah, it does. He ends up obviously building himself up so that he can deal with all of his issues. And then he goes walking out to the parking lot. We get the nice little kind of back and forth between him and Buddy getting themselves
Great.
ready.
It's a great montage as the clock's ticking the final 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like every beat, we're cutting back to Jerry walking to the car park, to Buddy walking to the car park, to the school bell going, to all the kids running
the
out,
kids
hanging out
there.
the windows. Like that parking lot shaped like an arena.
Yeah,
ready
yeah.
for them to fight. But yeah, the principal comes out and he's like, nope. Everybody go home. There will be no fight today.
And the two of them just stand there like, nah, we're doing this. I mean, I get it from Jerry's perspective. He needs to stand up for himself once in his life. And I also get it from Buddy's perspective that, yeah, all right, Buddy shouldn't have thrown Jerry up against the wall. But how many times has Buddy been in this situation that he kind of has a reputation to kind of maintain or
He does now,
or a
yeah.
legend or something.
Yeah.
And they end up having a bit of a fist fight. The principal gets knocked out. I think the detective gets knocked out. Fucking Duke gets fucking knocked out. Franny gets involved.
Yeah.
Vincent gets involved. Bree fucking throws knuckle dusters to fucking Jerry. It's
Well,
like
yeah,
a-
they were Buddy's knuckle duster, so yeah.
yeah, and they're just it's a really, really great sequence, which is really nice, cementing the rest of the movie, because it's, like Gary said, it's literally just been building up.
It is a great moment as well when Buddy, he realizes he's bleeding.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
probably for the first time in his life, that anyone's probably landed a punch on him.
Yeah, yeah.
And actually marked him. But yeah, interestingly with this fight, I'm looking at the two of them, and if anything, Buddy could have destroyed Jerry in seconds.
Yeah.
In absolute seconds.
Yeah.
But I also believe, because we've seen how quite smart Buddy is,
Yeah.
he didn't want to kill Jerry. He didn't
No.
want to murder him in this fight.
No.
He wanted to teach him a lesson.
Yeah.
And that lesson has been learned by him standing up for himself. And Buddy almost seems kind of impressed and kind of like, thank you. You've learned something. But he also didn't quite be prepared to get smacked out by his knuckle duster.
Well, this is it. I also came up with two other thoughts while I was watching this sequence as well. I was just like, man, this would really work if it actually turned out that Jerry had paid Buddy right from the start, knew about Buddy before Buddy even came to the school, and thought, if I get him involved, I can make myself look the cool guy in front of everybody, because I've never really been in a fight or any situation like that.
I can't buy that for a second.
But then on the other side, because of the way that the ending goes, that I actually sit there and I actually think, Buddy orchestrated this whole situation with Jerry so that he could at least try to get accepted into the school. How many schools has he been to where the fear of all the other students have ostracized him and pushed him away and made the teachers turn on him and things like that, where he's had to fight, where now he's finally met this one guy who's probably weedier than him, and thinking to himself, if we have a fight in front of the whole entire school and he beats me, I'll not be this scary figure anymore, and he'll actually be a cool guy, and I'll actually have a friend. Because I mean,
I think those theories are
right. That's
preposterous.
Yeah, you might say that's preposterous, and that's fine. You're wrong, because, and here's my backup to this as well.
Please do.
They fight, right? They end up having a fight, and Jerry knocks Buddy out, and Buddy hits the floor, and the policeman turns up to confront Buddy.
No, Jerry. He wants to arrest Jerry, but the principal says, no, he's been through enough.
Yeah, he wants to do that, but he also wants to confront Buddy as well, because when they turn around to look for Buddy's body, he's not there. And there is no climax to that whole scenario, because the next thing that we see is we see the students back in school again. Everybody thinks Jerry's the coolest guy ever, but there's no money in the school shop, which, if you remember, Jerry stole. And so Jerry is still the thief, yeah? And the school's like, oh, let's all come together and give you all this money. And Buddy walks in with the $350 and drops it on the desk. There's no police involved. There are no questions about who stole the money or where it went. It's literally just brushed right under the carpet. Now I can...
It's not that important. It's more about these two people at the end.
But why then why make the money such a focus point? Why make it such a focus point that you're literally not going to actually pay off any situation? You've got the police involved. You've got the teachers actually trying to work out who stole this money. You've got Buddy bringing the $350. Buddy didn't even have to bring the $350 back.
It shows more strength of character.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's all about the character.
It's him trying to be accepted into the school as well. Because after the ending, obviously your imagination makes up the whole fact of how long they're going to stay in school for. But I like to play with the idea that after this, Buddy was a bit more approachable than he was at the start of the movie. Jerry's got a bit more of a backbone. I mean, fuck me, at the end of the motherfucking movie, Fran comes up to him and wants to make out with Jerry. Fucking the blonde girl's inviting Jerry off to her fucking party. And the fucking English teacher comes up and fucking throws herself at Jerry as well. And Jerry's like, it's gonna be one of those days. I'm like, what the fuck, movie? Come on!
Unbelievable.
Well, I was going to come back and say I do think your theories are preposterous, because that would just deflate the entire story and ruin these characters.
Well, it's
that
deflating
neither of them could have orchestrated this and put on this performance for the whole school.
Well, why
It's
not?
just ridiculous.
Why is that ridiculous?
There's no hint of that anywhere in the film.
There's no hint. There's no hint of it majorly, but like I said, it was a theory that I'd come up with because of the way that Jerry had orchestrated all of these situations. I
don't think he orchestrated it. They were just consequences of his choices.
Gary, we watched him walk in a room, smash open a till and steal $450. Now, if you're going to sit there and say that being a thief is a positive aspect of somebody's
I didn't just
character,
say that.
No, that's what I'm saying. Then the movie allowed him to walk into the shop, steal the money, pay another guy to try to beat up another guy, take the money, and then have no payoff towards the end of what the police are actually going to do with this whole investigation. That, to me, is preposterous. That they put this story section into... They even got an actor in to play the detective to question Jerry.
Yeah.
And ultimately, he never turns up again. The money situation is just completely forgotten. Because, as my friend here said, we are supposed to just focus on the aspect of these two characters. But I can't get over the fact that Buddy wasn't the bad guy.
Yeah, he wasn't. They were both pretty bad. You know?
No. You say they were both pretty bad. I don't see Buddy as the bad guy. Buddy was just a guy coming into a new school who had all these situations thrust
manhandled Jerry in the bathroom, wrecked the car.
After he put his hand on him.
Yeah, and it's a bit of an extreme overreaction.
He doesn't like being touched. I know many scenarios where somebody who doesn't like being touched react exactly like that, where they will get aggressive. And he only took out the car after the switchblade had been stuck into his locker. Would he have done that to the car if the switchblade hadn't been put in his locker? We don't know. I like to think not, because he'd have no reason to go out and find Jerry's car. But the fact that he goes to his locker, he finds a knife in there, and knows, without even finding out the evidence from the teachers, that actually it's the guy that he has confronted in the store. And like I said, going back to that situation as well, we're going to fight at 3 o'clock. Why, buddy? What is your big thing? Why didn't you just beat him up there in the toilet? Yeah, that would have just garnered your legacy, your legend even more on your first day. Why leave it till 3 o'clock to fight this guy in front? No, or not even in front of the school. He doesn't even like people do it. The school finds out and turns up.
Yeah, pretty much.
Why the focus of 3 o'clock? Because, like I said, in my mind, he wanted to make an impression. And like you said, he could have easily destroyed Jerry. But he ends up fighting, taking hits, Yeah, beating up. He could have smacked Franny in the face, but he doesn't. He throws her. Yeah, he throws Vincent as well. He only ever punches people who touch him.
Yeah, yeah,
Properly put their hands on him. And so it's just like I said, I get where you're coming from, but that's why they're my theories and not yours, is because the way I look at the movie is this: Jerry is the orchestrator of a lot of these scenarios, and so in a way the bad guy, where Buddy is kind of labeled the bad guy, but by the end of the movie you're actually empathic to him, like, you know what, especially that way he drops the money, he smiles but he doesn't smile.
Yeah,
there's an acknowledgement between him and Jerry of,
it's the
"You're right.
smallest cinematic smile ever.
You're cool in my book." And Jerry's like, "Hey, I'm cool in Buddy's book," and Buddy's probably the coolest guy in the entire school at the moment.
I don't know about cool, but we could definitely see that they might be, perhaps be friends, like, after this moment. Maybe not the best friends, but at least I don't think they'd ever come to blows like they did at the end of the film.
Yeah.
But this whole ending sequence actually wasn't in the original film, and was actually co-directed by Spielberg, who had just flown over from China, finished the film he was doing over there, and because test audiences were like, well, what happened to Mrs. Farmer? He had had the kiss, had the note, and never turned up. So Spielberg was like, well, what we'll do is we'll get everyone back together, like the school, all the kids in there, not the extras anymore. Those are all the school kids that go to that school, because they've gone past production, and but still managed to get all of those sequences where they're buying all of the stuff, replenish the register from all of the destroyed fire extinguisher and the stolen money, and then of course to pay off what audiences were wondering with the big kiss with the teacher, which is a surprise kind of ending. I'm like, he's got a girlfriend. Like,
yeah.
Why is he? What?
Well, that's it. It's like I said, with the whole Franny situation, she was making out that she wanted to sleep with him literally from the beginning of the movie. And then after they had their kiss and they were going to bond, it was like she realized that she didn't like him. But then she did come back to
help him in the fight as well, yeah.
So and then she's kissing him at the end, and he's happy to have a girlfriend. But then Karen comes up and says, "You want to come to my party?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm not sure." And then the English teacher turns up and tells him. I'm like,
it's a bit much for the ending.
But that's what I mean.
It has that. I think it's just a part of that Spielbergian charm that just kind of wraps up a bunch of storylines very quickly and ends on a joke.
Well, like you said, they didn't have Jerry as the main character. They hadn't done the beginning. And they hadn't really fixed the ending. They just had the middle bit, which was Jerry versus Buddy. Then, so making that bit at the beginning, making Jerry the main guy, you've got to finish it with Jerry being the main guy. And it just so happens that it does become a little bit farcical. I get the movie language. It doesn't resonate that way with me. I know it probably does with a lot of other people, but I look at it and I go, okay, movie. You're trying to shove Jerry down my throat. I get it. I'll go with it, but yeah.
Well, do you want to go with your favourite scenes, Ian?
I just had so many favourite sequences. Buddy and Jerry in the restroom at the beginning. Just thought it was just really well filmed, really well set up. Just the way that the camera had you look at the way Jerry's hand was on Buddy's arm and the way that Buddy is reacting to it. And so you're like, oh fuck, it's all about to fucking kick off. Some of the camera shots as well just were really, really well done. Like the sequence where they were in the sports hall and Buddy's just had his little thing with Jerry and he walks off and it goes to this really long wide shot and it's just Jerry stood there in the hall. I was like, wow, that really just captures how
small and insignificant he is and feeling at the time.
And how lonely he feels, where he's kind of pushed everybody away and he's on his own and now he has to deal with this scenario, his situation for himself. I love the filmmakers wanting to film Jerry, just constantly just turning up, trying to explain to him, like, we're going to film you all day and we're going to film the fight and we want it to be this big blockbuster, because it just made me feel like the people making this film, like how they must have been in school, how they wanted to make film, then they've gone off and they're making a film, but they're in school again, so let's just throw two characters in there that want to be filmmakers. Wojtek Dolinsky, the fucking
disciplinary
officer. He was great, and the fact that you've just come off the sequence as well with Mitch Pileggi playing Duke. They were just so great together as that situation. Like right at the end when Dolinsky kind of walks out and looks at Buddy, and Buddy just shoots him that look, and Dolinsky just completely backs down. You're like,
He just turns and walks away.
it's like, oh mate, you've completely lost your power now in front of the entire school. The library sequence with Craig getting knocked out, I just thought that was great as well, especially with the domino effect of all the shelves being knocked down, and then Jerry and Vincent there, and then the shh.
Great.
Miss Farmer making out with Jerry and then passing out. I mean, who didn't want to make out with their English teacher if they were super fucking hot?
Right.
You know? And I just love the way that Jerry collapses and then he's just lying there with a big smile on his face. That was funny. There was a sequence where Jerry was walking into down the corridor and the camera was zooming down on him, you know, and it just, like you said, it was just focusing on the intensity of him as the movie had been going on, and he's getting more and more stressed out, and he's going to have to face this fight, and he doesn't want to, and everything's just, intense. Kind of like fucking, Brody on the beach when he sees the kitten boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the ending, I suppose, where, like you said, you've just come off the big fight sequence, and like I said, I get it. Jerry's the hero. He's supposed to be the hero, so we're supposed to feel good about him beating up the bad guy and winning. And I suppose if they hadn't filmed the end sequence, it would have made more sense with Buddy disappearing and Jerry being the hero. But then tacking this ending on, it does pay off, because you get the rumor mill start all over again and come all the way back to Lisa Simpson outside the school where the film had originally started. But, Jerry just standing there, oh, this is my girlfriend, and this is Karen, the cutest girl of the school, who kind of fancies me and thinks I'm cool now that I've beaten up the world's biggest bully, and here comes my English teacher who wants to make out with me in front of all the students and not get arrested.
Right. Well, it doesn't seem anyone's getting arrested these days.
Yeah, nobody's getting arrested in this
school.
fucking movie. You know?
Before I get into my favourite scenes, I want to talk about the cinematography in the film. The DP was Barry Sonnenfeld. Now, if you watch the opening credits, he's credited as a lighting consultant, and that was because he wasn't unionised at that time, so they couldn't put his name in there as the director of photography. But this is the guy that shot Misery. This is the guy that went on to direct the Men in Black trilogy. So this is one of his early roles, and just shines here. Captures exactly what the director wanted. Captured the cinematography of After Hours.
Yeah.
And it's also there in the edits with the like the shot that you mentioned with the camera
zooming
in quickly, and they also remove like every 8th frame so that it speeds up the motion even more. Gives it almost a dreamlike, nightmarish feel to the edit and to the camera angles and the way that it's constantly moving in. I thought it was very well lit and very well shot.
Did you say he did all 3 Men in Black movies?
Yeah, he was the director for those.
Those are real. I love especially in the first one, and going into second and third one, but the first one really just stood out, just the way it looked, the way it feels.
So I'm just like, with Spielberg's kind of oversight, with a great DP, great music, and an interesting fresh director and a good cast, it's one hell of a bubble of talent in here, which is why there's so many favourite scenes right from the beginning. The opening montage, the music, the way it's edited, the way it's paced, all of the little gags, sniffing the dirty laundry, putting it in the microwave, the Pop-Tart, the car, the near collision.
Yeah, the near collision,
it just sets it up great. All the way up to Buddy's reveal as he steps out of his car. Just great shots, great sequences, all going at a good pace. The library scene, I think, is one of the most intense scenes because, the guy that's been paid to go and confront, not necessarily beat him up, but confront and just tell him to get away from Jerry.
He got paid to beat him up, dude.
Well, he got paid to stop him, whether that way. I mean, he was fully prepared to fight.
No, totally.
But he didn't throw a punch. He didn't go in there and just fight, did he? He went up there and talked to him. And Buddy was the one who then threw him through the bloody, through the book stand.
After he laid his finger on him.
Yeah, a finger. A finger. It's a bit of an extreme overreaction.
No, I wouldn't like a finger being put on me by some stranger.
But it's a really good sequence, and it ends with the domino bookshelf, and then them two being revealed in the corner of the room. Great moment. You didn't even try. How does that make you feel? I think it's the most powerful line in the entire film. It really encapsulates exactly what Buddy was expecting or wanted to see from this character, that he's kind of victimized and bullied by just being there. you know, throughout the entire film. And you really feel how defeated Jerry is in of himself. You know, he's ashamed of himself at that point. And and the camera, the angle, the music, everything, the mood. You know, it's the lowest point. It's the lowest point in the film. And it's done very, very well. Don't fuck this up, Mitchell! The principal, as he's been
So
knocked out
stupid,
on the
yeah.
floor, yelling that as everyone's chanting for him to rip his fucking head off. You know, it's all the emotions all swept up in that final fight. And Buddy, his final sequence when he comes in, you know, squeezing that money, and he drops it on the counter and tries his damned hardest not to smile. Great performance there as he walks out the door. So yeah, it's great. So many memorable sequences there. It really is hard to nail them all down. There's so many. There really are. Ian, do you recommend the film?
I do highly recommend this movie. Like I said, I'd never seen it up until now, and so then actually watching it for the first time, it just slotted itself into my top 5 favorite movies of the 80s. Like I said, I wish I had seen it, you know, back in the day, because I'd probably have a different feeling towards Jerry. But now watching it like almost 40 odd years later, I like I said, I get what the movie's trying to say and implement about Jerry. It's just some of these scenarios he did orchestrate himself, and then he ends up confronting Buddy, and Buddy's just like, 3 o'clock, dude. 3 o'clock. Every time you keep confronting me, it's just going to keep going at 3 o'clock. And so then I look at Buddy and I'm just like, man, I want to know more about your back history. I want to know where you come from. What's made you like this? What, you know, he's probably got the world's worst parents or whatever. Maybe he's coming from the best kept life and we just don't know. He just fucking hates school. Just everything works with the movie, the acting, the camera work, the music. It's just fun as well. Like at the end of the movie, when Jerry had done his final line and the credits started to roll up, I actually just sat there and listened to that song that had been playing since the beginning, because it was just so fun, 80s, catchy, and I for an hour and a half, you really can't go wrong.
Yeah, I'm totally recommending 3 O'Clock High. This is a much forgotten hidden gem of the 80s that deserves to be seen by more than the few who took a chance to see it when it first released. It's a universal tale about bullying and standing up for yourself and trying to do the right thing within a high school, with much more darker elements and black comedy than this genre tended to provide at the time. It's got a lot of style, which director Phil Joanou credited Martin Scorsese as the influence, and it really shows. It's edgy and tense and dark, with great cinematography, lighting, editing, and it's backed with another fantastic score by Tangerine Dream. Casey Siemaszko was perfectly cast in the lead role. He showed a great range, you know, he was meek, he was slightly awkward, and incredibly believable as an everyday student struck in an impossible position against a ticking clock. You know, Richard Tyson, he didn't have as many scenes, but really left an impression as a powerful and intimidating villain character with hints of layers to his character. The whole cast worked really well. They felt genuine with some of that Spielberg magic in the mix. And this was a real joy to watch. It was entertaining right to the end, and a film to revisit again and again. So I'm going to give this a must watch. It's a cult classic for a reason, and I hope more get to discover this film now. When school is over, it's all over. Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
Now that's what I call a book report.